the thing that really got me when I was doing this study was, and I'm almost done. I promise I'm almost done. In John 10, when Jesus says, I am the door, that is a very specific reference to a shepherd. Because most of the sheepfolds in Israel did not have doors or gates. When the shepherds brought the sheep back in at the end of the day and put them and made sure all of the little sheep and all the little lambs were in the pen, there was no door. The shepherd was the door. The shepherd laid down between the two posts that were open of the sheepfold, and he was the door. Nothing got to those sheep that the shepherd did not allow in. And it was his duty, and he understood that it was part of his job, that he, if need be, he had to die to protect those sheep. Isn't that what Jesus does for us? He does that. I mean, he did that. He did that. And maybe he doesn't die every time to protect us, but he protects us. The only thing between us and Satan and the world and the flesh is Jesus lying in the door. That's it. That's the only thing. That's the thing I was aware of when we were talking after we finished talking last time, Ira. You know, because I was walking around my yard. I had my dog. And my dog is a pit. And she's very strong, and she knows how strong she is. And the wind was blowing, and so I was getting dragged from one end of my yard to the other, just hoping I didn't fall. And I started to think about, I thought, Lord, I started to think about a shepherd, and I was like, if it wasn't for you, where would I be? I would be some little sheep in the mouth of, or in the jaws of a lion or a wolf, being torn apart. Jesus. And I just, to become the greatest, you have to be willing to be the least. Jesus was, is, and always will be the greatest. And he became the least.
Yeah.
Wow. He became the least. Wow. And not only did he become the least, he did it with a smile on his face, and he did it with joy in his heart. And that, I don't know that I will ever understand that. I don't know. Because I'm the kind of person, if I had to lay down the splendor of heaven, I would have done it, but I would have done it kicking my heels, complaining all the way. I'm just being honest.
He's never resented us.
No, he's never resented it.
He's
No.
never resented us.
He's never
acted out of he's acted out of compulsion, but not out of anything impure or anything forced. He truly he laid it down. Nobody took it from him. He laid it down.
It's true. And I think for me, I have always, my favorite part of the Christmas story isn't the shepherds. We'll talk about that later on in further teachings. I've always understood the shepherds, and I've always understood the importance of the shepherds, of announcing the shepherds. But not like I do now. And I'm going to close with this. There, the same site that had that picture, there's also a teaching, and I actually had in my notes, I went back and actually looked at this, a sermon that the preacher that left my other church recently preached a few years ago at Christmas. And what I'm about to read you was in his notes. It's very similar to what he had. Listen to this. If I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can get it. Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I can they did, among other things. And if I can get it to pull up.
It's a feeding trough.
Yeah. Okay. This is not me. This is the gentleman who made the post at this site. It's called Christian Cafe. It says this. It says, no matter how many times I read this, I just cannot do it without getting chills all over me. And I know exactly what he means, because when I read this the first time, I had goosebumps. I bet you didn't know the following about the manger that Jesus was laid in. Of course, mangers are feeding troughs, but in ancient Israel they were made out of stone, not what you would see in a modern day nativity scene, not comfortable, but great for protection. That's why those who are experts in this matter, the priests, would put their newborn lambs in them for protection, but not just any lamb. The unblemished, perfect lambs that were used in the sacrifice for sins. And Bethlehem, where Jesus was born, was famous for their unblemished lambs used for the sacrifice. These lambs had to be perfect, so they would wrap them tightly in cloth and lie them in the manger to keep them safe. This is why exactly the only time mangers are mentioned in Jesus' birth story, it is being told to the shepherds in Luke 2. The shepherds would have understood this powerful parallel. They knew what the cloth and the manger meant. This baby would be the perfect Lamb of God, the Messiah who would sacrifice his life for the sins of the whole world. He wasn't just a baby wrapped in swaddling clothes lying in a manger. He was God, perfect, sinless, and holy, humbling himself to become the perfect sacrifice to reconcile us back to himself. That, my friend, that perfect Lamb is why we celebrate Christmas. One other thing I want to add to this. Yesterday, I was blessed enough to attend a candlelight service just down the road, literally a few moments at Heritage. And in the candlelight message that the preacher gave, he talked about how there was another use for the swaddling cloths too. And this, along with wrapping the lamb, makes perfect sense. The swaddling cloth was the same material that they used as a burial shroud to cover dead bodies when they would prepare them and bury them or put them in the caves or however they prepared them. Think about that. Baby Jesus, wrapped in swaddling clothes, not only as God's perfect lamb, but also wrapped in the cloth of a shroud, because he was born to die. The moment that he drew his first breath and baby Jesus uttered a cry, that was the countdown to Calvary. That's when it started. Wow. And every moment after that, in that baby's life, pointed to Calvary. So that, and when I knew that I was going to use this, what I just read to you, I knew I was using that. When I heard that last night, I almost came up out of the pew.
That's good.
I feel like Christmas, the way we celebrate Christmas is just, it's really, when you think about it, it's really wrong. Because it's great to have Christmas trees, it's great to give presents, it's great to do all those things, but it's more important that our focus be on Jesus.
Amen.
It already is.
Yeah.
The other thing is you have to, you read it in the scripture.